You're listening to Plants and Politics with Gina Bonanno-Lemos. If you're ready to hear the truth about both sides of the aisle, what's really going on in America, and how big money interests prevent change to keep you sick, broke, and desperate, then play on. Welcome to Plants and Politics. This is Gina. So I want to talk about a little bit of a touchy subject. So prepare yourself if you fall on the left side of the spectrum politically. I want to ask a serious question. What the hell is going on with liberals? I don't ask this in a funny way. I'm being dead serious. Are liberals aware that they are coming off in the same manner as the MAGA supporters that they have been railing against and pissed off at for the last 5 years? Now, I'm on the left. I'm on the far, far left. I make no bones about that. I don't try to hide that fact. So everything I talk about, of course, is going to come through that lens. I admit that. Unlike other people, other shows or things that you may listen to or watch, they try to play this nonpartisan BS and tell you that they don't have an agenda or they don't skew any which way. They don't affiliate with any type of political party. I'm going to tell you the truth. I am as progressive can be. But I'm going to call people out when they're doing things that I think are inappropriate, beyond the pale, or just plain wrong. So Democrats lately have kind of been losing their minds. They are freaking out over anybody who says anything negative about Joe Biden. Anybody who doesn't 100% toe the liberal line, they want to cancel them. They don't want to see them. They don't want to hear from them. But yet, this is what liberals have been complaining about, actually most people on the left, in regard to MAGA supporters and, Trump's hardcore base for the last 5 years. That you can't get through to them, you can't talk to them, they don't want to hear facts, they don't want to consider an alternate point of view, they only believe what Trump says, they only believe what they see on Fox News. Well, guess what, liberals? You're kind of really doing the same thing. I mean, just like MAGA supporters freak out every time Chris Wallace says something negative about Trump, you guys are now freaking out anytime anybody on MSNBC or CNN says anything negative about Biden. Even anybody who's not even being negative about Biden, but just being realistic about what's going on. So here's some examples. The latest one was Maggie Haberman. She is a New York Times reporter, and she made a very bland statement all she said was that, I believe it was on at CNN, that Joe Biden was a weak candidate or he was a flawed candidate, something to that effect. That's just reality. If you can't look at a man who has a credible allegation of rape against him, who has numerous other allegations of being creepy with women, making them feel uncomfortable. And there's many that I know of that I'll talk about in another podcast that I've had people contact me about that haven't even made the media. He has a history of racist remarks, such as, I don't want my kids growing up in a racial jungle, when he was fighting against desegregation. He has a huge part in the passing of the disastrous crime bill that disproportionately harmed people of color. He was one of the key people in putting through the bankruptcy bill, which harmed people. He has helped with legislation that directly affected and led to the Great Recession from 2008. He says things that are so wrong. He, by all accounts, is experiencing some cognitive decline. And anyone who goes back and looks at old video of him versus today can see he's not as sharp as he once was. And yeah, I get that that happens over time. And as we age, most people experience some of that. But let's just be honest about it. So for her to say he's a flawed candidate, yeah, the guy's a flawed candidate. He has a kid who was taking a lot of money from a foreign government for something that he had no experience in. Two foreign governments, actually, if you consider the money that was funneled to a company he worked for from China. So yeah, he has issues. He has flaws. That was a factual statement. But people freaked out on her. Before that, it was Chris Hayes. When Chris Hayes dared to mention the very real, very credible sexual assault allegations against Joe Biden made by Tara Reade, people were trending fire Chris Hayes. More recently, people freaked out about Chuck Todd. He had Mick Mulvaney on his show. Now, do I like Mick Mulvaney? Am I a fan of his? Do I care to hear what he has to say? No. But Jesus, I mean, do you guys not want to hear anything you disagree with? You just want to be in your bubble. Now, here's the thing though. Chuck Todd is the same guy who referred to Bernie supporters like myself as brown shirts, which means that he was essentially saying that we are Nazis. Did the liberals freak out then? Did the moderates care that their progressive Dem counterparts were being painted as Nazis? Not so much. I didn't hear hardly anything. I heard progressives complain about it, but liberals were largely silent. I mean, we're all part of the same party, or we were before I became an independent, and Dems didn't have our backs as progressives in the party. They didn't care when Chris Matthews said that Bernie's win in Nevada was like the Nazis invading France. Another Nazi reference on MSNBC. Some people were upset. Bernie supporters were upset. But did liberals freak out about it? Again, not so much. Anytime Michael Moore is on. Now, this guy has really no agenda. Yes, he was a Bernie supporter, but he has accepted the fact that Joe Biden is the nominee. All he's trying to do is warn everybody what he sees. And he called it in 2016. Everybody was furious with him in 2016 when he said that Trump had a really good shot of winning. And everyone either ignored him, dismissed him, or downright cursed him because he dared to speak the truth. He dared to tell the truth as he saw it, and he was right. He knows the people, and he's telling you what he hears and what he sees. Wouldn't you want to know? Don't you want to know the truth? I would think people would want to know the truth. I mean, that's how I've always lived my life. I would rather know the truth, even if it's going to hurt me, but then I can at least make an informed decision. Now, this stuff has gone on for a while. I have even been targeted. A while back, before I get to me, a petition was circulating on moveon.org. And it was when the Tara Reade allegations had really come to light, and there was a lot of media scrutiny about the story. Someone created a petition on moveon.org demanding that Joe Biden step down. I signed it because I don't believe that you put two alleged sexual predators on the ballot, and that's supposed to be a good thing. I just don't believe that that is how we elevate the status and dignity of the presidential office, of the highest office in our land. I think that we are defining deviancy downward. We are allowing Trump to set the bar, and that's wrong. I think it's going to do long-term damage to the Democratic Party. And I don't want to see that happen because I think that they stand for far more good than the negative. So I felt that the petition was a good thing. Shortly after that petition started picking up steam, MoveOn.org decided to delete it. MoveOn.org pulled the petition down. Apparently they got slammed. They got complaints about it. Now, MoveOn is supposed to be a progressive group. How progressive are you if you aren't going to stand for free speech and you aren't going to allow a certain portion of the public to speak their values, to stand up for their principles and demand a better candidate? If you're going to silence anybody who cares to dissent or dares to dissent. So I felt that that was completely ridiculous. Many people reached out to MoveOn.org and asked for an explanation. The explanation they got back was, I think, even worse than removing the petition to begin with. Basically, the letter that they sent to everyone in response only contained about, I believe, if I recall correctly, one or two sentences about why they actually pulled the petition down. And it essentially was they didn't feel that it was appropriate for their site. The rest of the letter, which was several paragraphs, went on and on about how horrible Donald Trump is and how many allegations of sexual assault he has against him. So, in other words, your progressive site, your progressive organization, quote unquote, that only agrees in progress if it applies to Republicans, if it applies to the people you don't like. But if it's standing up for women, standing up for sexual assault victims, and the perpetrator is someone that you like, then you don't really give a damn about progress. That's the way I read it. That's the way pretty much everybody read it. So there was also, even prior to this MoveOn.org petition, there was a Daily Kos article that was removed. Actually, there were two, I should say, about the Tara Reade allegations. So the first one was written by a man I don't know. It was a short article, very succinct, basically just left a link to information on some website where it had first come out. And promptly, I believe within a day or two of his petition going up, not only did he have tons of hateful comments on his article, in the comment section of his article, but his article was removed from the site. I then wrote an article. I still have a copy of it for anybody who wants to read it. It was very factual. It provided links to articles on The Intercept. It provided a link, I believe, to the Katie Halper show, which is where Tara Reade provided her first interview about the allegations. So I provided sources. It wasn't like I was just making it up. And this was several months ago. This was before it really hit the national media. I, too, was besieged and attacked with negative comments, with people insulting me, people calling me a Russian asset, people accusing me of, having a fake photo, you name it. I mean, just lunacy. Absolute lunacy. I didn't respond to any of them because honestly, it wasn't worth my time. I knew I had provided facts as they were known, and all of these people apparently complained, and my article was also removed. Now, I reached out to Daily Costs, which is also supposed to be a progressive website. They call themselves progressives. I reached out, I asked them why my article had been removed, and I received no response. So I find this pattern very disturbing. I don't care if you're on the right or on the left, but if you cannot stand to hear any other ideas, any other opinions, any dissenting voices, anything that doesn't 100% align with your views, how are you any better than Fox News viewers? What makes you different? Because I know many people right now who, if you're listening, you may say, well, because I know I'm right and Donald Trump is horrible. Okay, number one, you don't know you're right 100%. And if you think you're right 100%, so do Fox News viewers. They 100% believe that they are right. It's kind of like religion. Jewish people think that they're 100% right. Muslims think that they're 100% right. Christians and Catholics believe that they're 100% right. It's all opinion. There are going to be dissenting views. People are going to think and feel things that you don't. If we want to live in a bubble, then we cannot be shocked when something bursts that bubble, kind of like what was set up in 2016. All of the mainstream media, and I admit I was one of the people who watched it back then, had us convinced that Donald Trump was going to lose, that Hillary Clinton was a shoo-in, that she absolutely had no issues whatsoever. She was going to be the next president. I know people who purchased their plane tickets and hotel rooms months in advance because they were so certain that Hillary Clinton was going to be the next president, and that all of these outlets were absolutely correct. Everybody freaked out, and rightfully so. I can't stand Donald Trump. I think he's vile. I think he's the worst person who's ever held the office of the presidency. I think he should be in prison. But I also believe in free speech. I also believe in hearing alternate points of view, because just as Fox News doesn't always tell the truth, neither does MSNBC or CNN. They all have an agenda. They're all funded by certain financial interests, by certain corporations, and they all have a reason for spinning things the way they do. I just hope that everybody will have an open mind, stop with this BS of trying to silence anyone who says anything that you don't like and you don't want to hear. We can't live in this bubble and expect to solve the problems of the world. We have to be open to hearing other viewpoints, because meanwhile, while the MSNBC and CNN crowd are 100% committed to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and think they're doing a great job, they are aligned with the likes of Mitch McConnell and all the other Republicans. And I'm sorry if, again, that bursts your bubble and you don't want to hear it, but it's the truth. Establishment Democrats are not much different than Republicans, and they want the same thing. They want to maintain the power structure. So we need to start opening our minds to understand that the only way we are going to change our country is not with this incrementalist BS. No, people aren't happy. Have you looked out in the street lately? People aren't happy. So we need massive changes. We need institutional changes, and we need to get rid of the establishment on both sides. So think about it before you freak out, before you start trending, firing anybody, getting rid of anybody because they dared to have an opinion that you didn't like and something that said something that you didn't want to hear. If you don't want to be like the thing that you've claimed to hate for the last 5 years, then just stop. Again, just my opinion, but I think I'm right. All right, guys, take care. Like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. I will talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.